Hey guys, Chaz Pippett from Baseball Rebellion. Today I'm going to be breaking down Edwin Encarnacion of the Toronto Blue Jays. He had a massive home run last night against the Rangers, but he did it really interestingly after he threw his bat into the stands. So as we play this video, what you're going to see is he does a really good job of coiling inward and showing this back pocket. Just a phenomenal job right here of turning inward, showing that, and holding that position as long as he can, even as his front foot is working diagonally out and into the quote-unquote bucket. He's stepping out to get his heels past in line, and for reference point, you can see the straight line of the batter's box. So here are the two straight lines there. I'm drawing parallel lines, and then you can see that his toes are in a completely different alignment, which means his heels are as well. And so he's really opening his foot and opening his leg to allow his front hip to open up correctly in spite of the closed landing of his front foot. Now what's really interesting is he throws this bat, and a lot of kids when they throw the bat, especially in lessons or in games, and that bat went a long way, 5, 6, 10 rows deep into the stands. Thank goodness nobody was hurt. A lot of people, they would swing much more timidly on the very next pitch. But what you're going to see from Encarnacion is he's trying to do damage. That's why he's got 42 home runs this year, 127 RBIs, and that's why the last 4 or 5 years he's gone 42 homers, 36 homers, 34 homers, 39 homers, and then 42 again. He's really transformed himself, from a 9th round draft pick and a guy who, had a little bit of power and hit more doubles, to a guy who's like truly a force. I mean, he's finished in the top 15 of the MVP voting 3 times in the last 5 years. So that's spectacular. And as he moves into his front side here, you can really see again he does a great job of showing this back pocket, the back pocket. Let me be clear, okay? So a lot of people, they can take a big leg kick with their front leg and show a lot of the front pocket just by turning their leg in. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about showing the rear hip pocket, all right, and then holding that in as he creates space for his turn by stepping out and allowing his front foot to work towards the third base dugout instead of just forward towards the pitcher. Again, most people close themselves off and they land closer to home plate with their front side because they're so worried about covering the outside pitch. But as you can see here, this pitch was dead middle, right? And he pulls that ball in the gap into the second deck. And I'm pretty sure poor Colby Lewis knew this thing was gone the second he let it go. I would have been flinching as soon as I saw that ridiculously awesome swing that Encarnacion put on it. But what you're going to see is, again, some really, really good stuff here, okay? Now, I know I talk a lot about staying tall in the swing, and Encarnacion does a really good job of actually lowering his head to the pitch, which seems like it might be counterintuitive or counterproductive to what a lot of the things I talk about. But he blows through this side bend, okay? So he's in a side bend situation here. But how did he get there? All right? So a lot of that is he's sitting into his back hip, and his head is staying back as his hips are going forward. And what that allows him to do is really get behind the baseball. And as you can see, his hip angle, okay, so here's where his pelvis is. I'm going to change line colors here. I'll make a red line. So that's the line of his belt buckle, okay? And then he stands up through that and gets into side bend through the turn. So there's room for both hip hinge and side bend, but in order to complete the turn like this and get your shoulder all the way to center field, you have to come out of that hip hinge and stand up much more vertically, which we're seeing here, all right? And this is a side bend action through the rear oblique, leaning in towards home plate after he blew through his hip hinge, because if he had stayed hip hinged, he couldn't have finished his turn, so he comes up and stands up out of it. We don't have a side view of this swing here, but what we do have is a view of where it landed. But the key things I want you guys to see is, again, here are the straight lines of the batter's box for perspective. And you can clearly see that while he starts open, his foot comes in, and then it works almost straight sideways and gets him into this type of alignment with his toes, which is more towards the shortstop. His heel's in the ground, not his toes, and then he spins on his front heel, slight ankle roll there, but not much. He spins on his front heel. He allows his front cleats to come out of the ground so that he doesn't destroy his knee, and he finishes his turn all the way forward. So Edwin Encarnacion does some great stuff here, and he stayed aggressive even after throwing his bat into the stands and possibly injuring somebody. I know it's embarrassing if you throw your bat in the cage or you throw your bat in the game, but you've got to stay aggressive so that you can give yourself the opportunity to do the damage, that he was able to do. And the fact that he was stubborn enough to collect himself and refocus and then take another professional swing as opposed to a timid swing, it really shows the difference between obviously a multiple-time All-Star and the way most coaches would handle a kid throwing the bat, or most parents would handle a kid throwing the bat, or the kid himself or herself would be to slow down and just make sure you're really in control the next swing. Well, the way that these guys swing the bat in a game, they are in control, and they're in control at full speed, and that's what we love here at Baseball Rebellion. So as his intent went up in the big leagues, his value went up in the big leagues, and he's up for a new contract this season, and coming off a season which he hit 260 with 127 RBIs and 42 homers, not including anything he's done in the postseason. I'm pretty sure he's up for a big contract. So happy for Edwin, and happy to see the Blue Jays advancing. Hopefully the Cubs do the same tonight.